Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back at you with part 3 of whatever this is, something to do with QE. I hope you enjoy it anyway, wherever you are. I hope you can hear me clearly enough. And yeah, I can't think of much to say for the intro for once, so that's probably for the best because I normally do waffle too much for the intro, and I do want to keep my videos short and sweet if I can. As ever, I'd love to read your comments, and if you want to make any reaction videos, please feel free to do so. I'll try and keep this short and sweet if I can, and especially the intro. And here goes. So number 21. I do normally cover these 4-part videos, so if anyone does stumble across these, I break them up into 4 parts, and each one has 10 ideas. So this one is going to be number 21 to 30. I think I forgot to say, mention that in my last video about how it's broken up. But anyway, sorry for those who already watched my other videos, but yeah, just for any potential new viewers. Anyway, and 21, as they say, 21 again. I often say this, like old ideas. So how the idea. So I think a long time ago I had this idea, and I can't remember exactly how it started or when it was, but I say a while back. Yeah, I can't remember when it was or how it was or exactly, but just try to remember some of the older ideas. Basically, one of my ideas was like, and ideally, using a QE system, as I said before, like in part 1, I think, yeah, pretty sure it's in part 1, like my child, like mind, how I see things in very simplistic sort of ways, perhaps being a bit of a kid, even though I'm nearly 41, unfortunately, but especially back then, I'm quite immature now, so imagine how mature I used to be, unfortunately, to be honest, but which is why I think this would be quite an irony if some of these ideas work, but yeah, was to work with like the American government and banks, and that sort of thing, to have an agreement where like all the money in the world would be reprinted possibly 100 times over. So whatever money there was in the world the day before, it'd be 100 times more from whenever the event started. And I wanted to start a long time ago. A lot of time I thought if it started before Christmas, I think in some year that would be pretty cool, because obviously people buy things at Christmas, so I could have developed my other projects. Obviously it wasn't to be, because for whatever, I couldn't, well, I say for whatever reason, but I couldn't market the idea. But yeah, that was basically the dream. So talking about my imaginations and imaginatives. So yeah, and back then I used to want to be sorry, the richest person in the world, even the richest person in history, and the best business person ever, and like people to look up to me, sorry, if I can speak properly, and yeah, prove my people who doubted me wrong, or things like that. So I was very interested in like showing off, perhaps, I suppose, and like say, proving my critics wrong, like people who mocked me for not having a job or whatever. So yeah, so I wanted to be the largest shareholder or equity holder, if you like. Probably equity holder is more of an accurate description. So ideally, as I say, if there was 500 trillion or whatever in the economy, it would be 100 times whatever that is, and it would go 100 times more each day. Hope that made sense. As I said before, like quote unquote normal people, or most people, nearly everyone else probably sees 12 p.m. Next day, whereas I see it as like 1 in the morning, because things normally start from 1. So yeah, I thought meet halfway, as they say in business, we meet halfway. So I thought it could be between midnight and 1 in the morning. But yeah, so that would be how it would start to reprint that much money. I don't know how long it would take. I imagine it would take quite a while, but by the next day it would work that way. That's how I wanted it to work in the past. And I'll say, because there'd be so much money in the system, I thought if I was the largest equity holder with 1%, the next wealthiest person would have 0.5% or 0.5%, and that kind of thing. So I hope that all made sense. I know it's a very quirky, my quirky mind, but I thought it'd be quite interesting if it worked. I still think it'd be quite interesting if it did work in the future. But so that, as far as I remember, that's pretty much how the idea was sort of developed. But yeah, I had all these big picture ideas of trying to make lots of money, which I kind of do, but now it's more towards my causes or goals of helping others more so. Anyway, moving on. I think I covered that point in quite a lot of detail, but as ever, please feel free to ask me any questions. So number 22, looking to the future, I'd love to develop this idea if I could. This is mainly about my imagination, so if it doesn't work, at least I gave it my best shot. But yeah, maybe I'd love to write books about it, and discuss it on YouTube, as I'm doing now. Writing stories and telling stories about how this would have worked or would work in my ideal world, in my strange little mind, as say my childlike mind in many ways, foolish mind and whatnot. But yeah, in the future, I'd love to negotiate, if I could, with governments, international organisations, charities, N.G.O.s, banks, and decision makers, policy makers, and whatnot around the world, especially in what I call the six, or from what I call the six. And if I could ever develop the idea, obviously I would, and see what could be done. So yeah, maybe they would say, oh, it can't be 100 times more because that'd be too much. Or maybe they'd be really greedy and they'd want to do it even more. They might even say like 1,000 times instead, or whatever. So yeah, although I do fear, obviously, inflation, inflationary pressures and things like that, and what could go wrong. But yeah, maybe through discussing the idea, we could look at how to make sure it would be done in a right way, if you like, or an ethical way. I'm wary to say right or wrong because I think that's subjective, but other people might disagree with me on that one. I think people do disagree on what, like I was discussing once, and I said ethics, like it's different to different people, and this person said ethics is, they said it is either ethical or it's not, but I think that is debatable. Like some people believe higher taxes is ethical, and others believe lower taxes is ethical. So I think it's, once you start saying what's ethical and what's not, you sort of take away people's rights to opinions or freedoms and things like that. So freedom of speech and things like that, expression and whatnot. So I'd love to hear what you think about that as well. But yeah, in the future, I'd love to negotiate and see what are the fairest and best ways to, if this could ever be put into practice, how it could be done, or how the QE system could be changed, just generally. Number 23, again, I'd love to support the poorest possible people around the world generally, including through this idea, as well as most of the other ideas I've come up with more recently. Number 24, again, I'd love to work with former colonies, developing countries, what I call the six, and that kind of thing. But obviously this would still be done, hopefully, internationally. I hope it will be an anti-imperialist sort of thing and reward anti-imperialism, obviously, from my own point of view. And number 25, I'd also love to support republics, as I often say. Number 26, again, I'd love to support countries that were colonized as much as possible, and for those to have, for former colonies or emerging market economies to have more of a say in things like the UN or international policy making, things like that. Especially, I think could be argued, like China and India, especially if they work together, they could argue that they have the biggest populations in the world, so they should surely have more of a say on international events and affairs. I'd love to hear what you think about that as well. Number 27, also I'm a great fan of rewarding people who help me, so whoever helps me, I hope to be able to reward them in the future. This could be something that could perhaps help me to do those sorts of things and achieve my dreams just generally as well, my goals and aims and objectives and things like that. Number 28, I hope that it will be even better than I think, or than I even dream, perhaps, if that's possible. I don't know if that would be ever possible, but hopefully it will make the world a better place, and turn negative situations into positives, and be able to, there'll be some sort of way to control inflation or other such pressures. And again, I hope that it will make the world a better place more than I even think somehow. As some of the ideas of it are a bit selfish, like the Italian football thing, but I think most of them I'd like to think are not as selfish, especially nowadays. Number 29, although I do hope to help people with things in common with me, and I hope to encourage people to support me and work on like how to form alliances and networks and things like that, including with my fellow mixed race people, olive skin people even, and learning disabled people with things in common with me. I think olive skin would be the most controversial. And number 30, again, some of the ideas might be selfish, but I'd like to think most of them are not. So I think that covers everything for now. And again, hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I did fairly reasonably well in terms of making sure it's not too long, just under 10 minutes. Anyway, peace and love. I am out.